Hey, Nicholas with Adventures in Locksmithing here with another Locksmith Reacts to Hollywood. And the moment I knew that I was going to do this series, I was trying to think of different things, and all of a sudden one hit me, and I'm like, yes, I have to do this. It's ridiculous. It's one of the funniest, comedies of all time. Robinhood Men in Tights. But what does Robinhood Men in Tights have to do with locksmithing? Well, let me just refresh you on a running joke that was just hilarious in this one.
A chastity belt? Oh, that's...
Okay, the chastity belt. So, there's some questions here. Because she doesn't have a key, how has she been going to the bathroom and operating proper hygiene? Yeah. But as a father of currently an 8-year-old girl who will be a teen, probably in a blink of an eye for me, worried about that. The concept of a chastity belt is something that, But as a locksmith, have I ever been asked to come take off a chastity belt? No, because chastity belts don't exist. This is, except for probably some type of cosplay, not a thing. Like I said, you gotta go to the bathroom and stuff. So, but if you recall back, I had one 5 or 6 ago. It was 90 something. I should have looked it up before this. Maybe I'll flash it on the screen or something. But I had my sleaziest customer, and I was being a little nice about this guy, but I think people don't realize just how sleazy this is. When I look back at it, I didn't go in depth enough. Numerous times this guy called and he was handcuffed naked to a bed. So he would go out, he'd find some homeless woman, and he had a bedroom set up where he would have cameras and mirrors at all different angles, including the roof and all that stuff. And he would record videos with them. And then he would wind up being handcuffed naked to a bed. And he would lock his bedroom before that, which had a different... But he would end up getting his wallet and all that stolen. Now, sometimes he wasn't handcuffed. Sometimes he was walking around the house and he had his bedroom locked, but they stole his keys, so he couldn't get into his bedroom and get his pants and all that. But they needless to say, when he falls asleep, they rob him blind or handcuff him to the bed or whatever with the play handcuffs or whatever. I had seen this guy naked way too many times. Way too many times. This is not like this was a couple of calls. This was probably 3 dozen calls over the course of 3 or 4 years that this happened to this guy. And every time he wanted me to rekey his PT Cruiser, he wanted to rekey me his house. He specifically wanted this bedroom where he keeps all his valuables to be keyed to a different key, so they couldn't get in it. But then he would put it on his key ring and then he wouldn't have it because they stole it. You would think this guy would learn his lessons. And yes, this is the guy that was also extremely racist and all that stuff. Go watch that video if you want to hear the rest about this guy. But for that. So I have on numerous occasions had somebody have handcuffs on. They're fairly easy to pick. Handcuffs are very easy to pick. I think that's probably going to make it into some future video, maybe Catwoman or something. How easy handcuffs are to pick. However, for this one, just a point, like I have had not only this gentleman, but I've had other people, not naked, but I've had people like they were playing around with ones that they got, and they're like, oh yeah, whether they got them because they were, a security guard, or they were getting them to be fun in the bedroom, and they were just playing around with them, and now they got a handcuff on their hand. And like that's usually what happens. It's not attached to something, or if it was attached to a bar or something, they cut that and they showed up with a handcuff there on their arm. I show up to the shop and, hey, can you get this off? You know, that's usually what it is. It's like attached to one wrist. They, whatever the other thing was on, they cut that off, and they show up to the shop and they go, hey, can you get this off? Or that, because they were playing around with it. I had one guy, he got it straight out of the package, cuffed it, and then realized there was no keys in the package. Like somebody had stolen the keys out of the box, and so he bought one without keys. But the first thing he did is like he pulled it out and he onto his wrist. Like, just why? So, but you know, like this kind of bed, you know, it is something that I do get calls for. So, yeah. But let's see how they go about trying to get it off.
No matter what you do, I shall never submit.
Okay. The number one rule about getting anything that is stuck on a person off. Now, this is whether you're trying to cut off a ring that or something, or a bracelet or something, when you've swelled up and they can't get it off. Yes, it needs to be cut, but you have to be very careful about the person. And any type of power tool you use to cut, metal heats up by friction. Also, metal transfers kinetic energy very, very well. So if it transfers heat, it transfers electricity, and it transfers kinetic energy very well. So if you have something metal and you are jackhammering against it, it's almost like that metal isn't like, it's going to be, the metal is going to be hitting you. It is going to hurt. Versus, you know, something that's leather and wool and stuff like that padding, yes, it may not be as good a guard against piercing, but when it comes to like concussion, that padding helps diffuse that. But when you have something that's unflexible like metal, that metal is going to transfer the full force of that pounding. This would have left her black and blue. When you go to cut something, that's a huge thing, like trying to cut off that. You cannot use power tools for that. Because if you were doing it fast, like a hacksaw, you're going slow, and so the metal doesn't heat up. But if you do anything like a Dremel angle grinder type thing, yes, there's the danger of cutting someone. But the bigger thing is that you're going to burn them. Because as you're going through, that handcuff's metal is going to get super heated. It's like after I cut a padlock off with an angle grinder, like if I touch the padlock shackle, it burns. I'll burn myself. It's that hot. And I usually tell customers, because the first thing I get it off and they go, oh yeah, they try to reach out and go, hold on, don't burn yourself. It's hot. So this guy is just doing it the complete wrong way. And I will say, now, the one that I said was my sleaziest customer, you know, he never had anybody else there trying to help. But when you see somebody do this, there's always somebody that's been trying to help. You know, you go to help them get this off and you're like, why is your hand covered in vegetable oil? Why is, we tried to this or that, or, you know, there'll be scratch marks all over this, that, or, yeah. Somebody always, and the worst thing that you can do in a situation where you are locked to something is to, instead of calling a professional, try to drill it off yourself and damage the part that I need to pick. Because that's a serious thing. So let's continue on with this. Aha! Yep, I come in, save the day. Like, that's what I was talking about. Like when the neighbor is there trying to fix something, and no, you're messing up. Like, you come in that and save the day. But now, for probably the most famous part of this, the moment that everything is fixed. This has me laughing. Because as someone who now understands skeleton keys, understands how they work, the idea of it just going through the air and being part of his lock and then boom, and it just falls directly in perfectly. One of the most frustrating things as a locksmith is making a key, especially like older locks, sometimes newer locks too, but making a key for an older lock. And there's a little bit of a getting it in the hole. It's not hard. It's easy to do if you know how to do it. But the customer being completely inept when it comes to putting the key in the lock. And a lot of times this is with older ones, but sometimes it's just, I was like, no. It's very specific. You have to line it up with the hole perfectly and put it in. And they go, oh, it's not that key. Which one of these new keys? No, they all work the lock. Oh, well, it's not. You're not actually putting it in the slot. You gotta get it in the right spot. You can't just start mashing the end of the key towards the lock. You have to actually focus on what you're doing. But if they're older and they don't have as good of eyesight or they don't have as good a hand, they can sit there and I instantly know I'm getting a call back. Lock stopped working again. I'll walk up. I'll show them. Boom. Boom. Do it 3 or 4 times in a row. I said, lock's working good. Oh, I don't know what's that. And I said, why don't you try it? And they go, oh, see, it's acting up again. I go, nope. Boom. Works. What is it? Well, it's because they're holding the key just a little bit too high. They're, I'll do a sample of this. So, goes in. But what are they doing? It doesn't go in. See? It doesn't go in. Well, if you hold it to the right spot, it goes in. So that's the thing that I constantly... So when I see this, not only is it silly that he has the lock that opens her chastity belt, it hits the thing and it comes off. Like the perfectness of that phone. This just had me laughing. But of course, there's what happens next.
Darling,
What?
you're not going to believe this.
What?
It won't open.
What?
Wait, I have an idea. Call a locksmith!
Call a locksmith!
Call a locksmith! Call a locksmith!
That's right, call the locksmith. Ones think they'll get a little... Well, ones think they'll have fun with handcuffs or whatever. They're playing around with them. And inevitably, they didn't test it first. They didn't do this. They didn't make sure they had the ability to unlock it before putting it on themselves. And then it's, call the locksmith. Call the locksmith. Then after they call the locksmith tells them how much he's going to charge them to come out and do it. And then they go, what? That's crazy. What else you going to do? Call the locksmith. Anyways, this is just like in key lock scenes in Hollywood. This might not have been the first thing everybody thought of. Everybody probably thought of like MacGyver or Burn Notice or some other person of interest, some other type of show, maybe a Sherlock Holmes picking locks. All sorts of stuff like that was probably what their first mind came to. But this is one of those things that is just so funny. And it totally, this is a thing. This is a thing. And so just had to do this one. Anyways, hope everybody has a good day. I will catch you in the next video. Next time on Locksmith Reacts to Hollywood.
Hi. Why are we standing here?
We're waiting for you to open the door. You've got the keys.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do. When we left, you said, got the keys.
No, I didn't. I asked. Got the keys?
No. You said, got the keys.
Either of you have the keys?